What's up, everybody? We are back. John De La Rose here, the leading Hispanic voice in science fiction, coming at you with another Carl Barks book review. This is my third duck book I've read of Carl Barks. The Great One. The People's Champion. Nope, that's somebody else. I'm sorry. But this is actually, I believe this is one of the early ones that came out. This was July 2016. And Lost in the Andes is actually one of the more famous Donald Duck stories. A lot of people really remember that one. And so this one is a treat to read. Now, I've read Volume 5 and Volume 6 is what it is. So these are not coming out in order. They are coming out randomly. And so I'm reading them in order as they come out. And they actually show at the back of the book where these were printed for each story. So the storylines in these were from 1948 in December all the way to June and in August 1949. And so we're reading late 40s comics of Donald Duck. Now, the way they organize this volume is different than the other volumes. I'm going to skip the introductions and all that because they're actually not terribly that interesting. No offense to the people who did this. But they do the adventures first in this one, and the other two that I read before this were not organized this way. They kind of smattered them in between each other. And then at the end, next they go into the short stories, which are about 10-page short stories. And at the very, very end, they do one-page gag strips. So Donald Duck really had 3 different levels of stories, which are one-page gag strips, where you have something start, and then at the end, you get the joke and the punchline down at the bottom of the page. You have these short 10-page stories, and then you have these long adventures like Lost in the Andes, and these are like full-length comic books, basically. So the other books I've read so far, like I mentioned, intersperse all of these together, so you don't have you're reading all the long ones first, then the next ones, then the short ones, which is weird because when they're all interspersed like that, I actually prefer it because it breaks up your reading a little bit and it gives you a different flavor and a different pacing in between things. So when you read all the adventures together, it kind of slows you down a little bit because you are just reading these long stories over and over, and then you get to the short stories. Just having that like pacing break, I guess, is a good thing. And they find this place called Plain Awful, where they're very weird people, and they're supposed to be these square eggs. Square eggs! These chickens have square eggs. And it's very funny. And it turns out these people have like a religiosity against circles. And so they blow a bubble, and because the bubble's a circle, they are going to be in big trouble. And Donald Duck finally gets his kids to blow square bubbles, and then they find these little chickens that are egg-laying chickens and they're going to, in theory, get rich doing it, and that's it. And they get very sick of eating eggs on the way back because it's very funny. But very cute storyline. This gets a sequel by Don Rosa later on, where they return to this area, and I actually read that before I read this one. That's what prompted me to read these. This one, Donald Duck is hunting a golden Christmas tree for his children, and there's this witch that's following them around the entire thing. This is a very fun story and enjoyable. And Donald Duck, the witch tries to trick him, very classic style witch, who's ugly and evil and attempting to stop them. And eventually, the town feels bad, and so everybody in town sends them a golden Christmas tree. Very cute. The Race to the South Street Seas is one of those Gladstone Gander versus Donald Duck. They're trying to find Scrooge on the South Sea and race to do so. And when they get there, Gladstone wins because Gladstone is always so lucky. But the twist is that Scrooge doesn't want to see anybody. He's been shipwrecked there on purpose because he just wants to be away from people. Very cute too. Voodoo Hoodoo. So we get this character where Scrooge McDuck is under a curse, and this voodoo guy is going to go kill Scrooge McDuck. Except for Scrooge has been gone so long that Donald Duck looks like Scrooge now. So he thinks that Donald, I don't know why, there's an envelope in there. He thinks that Donald is actually the one he's supposed to take care of. So Donald goes back to Africa and takes him back to Africa and lets him know who he is and all that. And they deal with the hijinks of that. And that's it. And so then we get into these, a quick Santa one, you know, very cute stuff. Can I say that this is any better or any worse than the other volumes? Not really. I mean, just everything in here is just so excellent. It's such a joy to read. And you can tell they're just having fun. They're just all lighthearted. There's nothing dark. Nothing's angry. It's just like the characters are just so sweet all the way around that you just want to keep reading more. And this is one that was interesting. So there was, in the last volume, there's a Western one where Donald's dealing with these brands that are, there's this like electro brander, which is branding cattle so that they could steal them and confusing Donald. And this is another Western one where people are, or not cattle, it was cattle, I guess it was. Maybe it was horses, I don't remember. But there's another one where they're stealing horses, and I found that very strange. And they're stealing horses by spray painting them this time. So kind of a redundant thing because there's already been a story like that. That was the only one that was like that, though. Everything else has been a lot of fun. We get some more Gladstone competition, and they dig up a beach. Very nice. And I love all of it all the way around. I think the 10-pagers are wonderful. I think the this is a very classic one where Huey, Dewey, and Louie are making echoes of Donald, and they're just trying to mess with him so they can go to the ball game. And that's cute. And they end up going to the ball game. Spoiler alert. Am I spoiling anything from 1949? Is that actually a thing? We get a criminal deal, and this is a cute one to end the volume with also. And I say end the volume because these shorts after this are, you know, they're just the one-offs. They are what they are. So good stuff. Very enjoyable, I would say. The Lost in the Andes is up there for one of the best Donald Duck storylines I've read so far. Definitely the highlight of the volume, and that's why they put it on the front cover. And I don't like the way that this is formatted, where they split up the adventures, the 10-pagers, and then the 1-pagers. I'd rather have them interspersed together so I can kind of get a variety. If you read this, I guess you don't have to read it this way. You can find those pages, read one, go back, right? And then you can get the variety yourself. That'd be a good way to do it, right? But there's a lot more 10-pagers and 1-pagers than there are those adventures, obviously. So maybe read one, read two, and then go back. I'd recommend reading it that way. Why not? But it's enjoyable. These are some of the best comics of all time. This is, despite the one that was kind of redundant, this is definitely a 9 out of 10. Just wonderful stuff, and everybody should be reading this. All right. Leave a comment down below. I will see you guys soon.